The title of today's video is Fragile Ecosystems. Yes, that's right, ecosystems, not ecosystems. What is a fragile ecosystem? So glad you asked. A fragile ecosystem is what is created inside of a human being when they leave the all-comprehensive love of God and try to subsist and survive apart from it. This truth is illustrated best in the Bible with the story of Adam and Eve, because they were the prototypes, the literal prototypes of this dynamic. If you think about the characteristics of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that they make you like God, they make you wise, right? They enlighten your eyes, right? What do those things do? They make you proud. They make you think you are something. You can do it all yourself, right? It's basically the birthplace of the ego. Because you leave that security where God is taking care of you, right? In a spiritual, mental, emotional sense. He is your security because love produces security. And God's real comprehensive love, not our shallow human definitions of it, God's real comprehensive love produces security inside of human beings. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally. If you see a person who is secure in life, you can know that that person is experiencing genuine, comprehensive love. It doesn't always have to be God's love, but it will be genuine, comprehensive love, because that's what produces security inside of human beings. Okay? Conversely, if you see somebody who's not experiencing security, they're experiencing insecurity, you can know that it is a product of leaving that love, which is what Adam and Eve did. Okay? So if you look at that story, I think it's a literal story, but I think it's a real story, but I think it teaches a much deeper spiritual truth. Okay? So yes, I think Adam and Eve lived in the garden, but I see it as teaching us the larger spiritual truths, which there are many in there. And this one is one of the prime lessons that it teaches us. And what is that lesson? It is that they were living in God's comprehensive love, all comprehensive, right? And that secured them spiritually, mentally, emotionally. They were secure, right? They had no need for an ego. Ego was not even a thought in their mind. It wasn't even an emotional experience. They had no inkling of what it would even look like or be. But when they left relationship, they left that comprehensive love and descended down to what? A new operating system called living off of the knowledge of good and evil. Then in that operating system where you have to look around and judge and make calls for yourself on everything, right? You're no longer secured in God's love. You're doing it all yourself. And that's the heart of it. When you have to do it all yourself, it's basically warped self-love is what it is. It's basically perverted, warped, twisted self-love. Because real self-love is treating yourself like God treats you. And that's a very genuine thing. Love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? How do we do that? We treat ourselves in the same way that God treats us, right? We agree with him, hey, I'm of value. I can respect myself. I can create boundaries. I can take care of my body. I can eat healthy. I can, get enough sleep, like do all the things, taking care of myself, valuing myself the same way that God values me. That's healthy self-love. But warped, twisted self-love is, hey, I have no idea about God and his love, and so I'm just going to build myself up. I'm going to lift myself up by my bootstraps. Frank Sinatra, right? And do it all my way. I'm going to be something. I'm going to elevate myself. I'm going to, right? That whole thing. And what does that create? It creates ego. And that's mostly what the world exists on, in case you haven't noticed. If you look at the majority of people, and I have to guard against this, right? I'm always preaching to myself, of course. The majority of the world does not run on truth, honesty, sincerity, love. The majority of the world runs on ego, right? And if you challenge anybody on anything, it's like, it's just the end of the world, right? Because nobody can stand to be challenged, right? Whereas if we were all honest and sincere, we would objectively look at ourselves, practice metacognition, and go, oh, I see where I'm wrong here. That makes sense. Okay, I'll change. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I'll change that, right? But you hardly ever see that. What you mostly see is just people defending themselves. They don't care if they're right or wrong, right? Even, honestly, a lot of Christian people. So, like I said. So, anyways, that's why I don't like politics, because politics is mostly based on ego. Not completely, but to a large majority, mostly politics is just all ego-based, because nobody can see all of the issues, all of the factors in political debates, right? Nobody's that smart. But some people understand it better than others, but nobody can see it all, and so people just camp out where they camp out. So much of it is just emotional, right? Oh, I was told this, or I watched the news, or my grandparents were this, or my parents were this, or oh, I believe them because of, and they just, half of it's all emotional. There's very little logic. It's like, and then it's just ego, right? Even if people do have more logical beliefs and more healthy beliefs, which sometimes happens, of course, right? It's just so much of it is just ego-based, man. Nobody can just admit they're wrong. It's just like, oh my God. So much of the world just runs on ego. And those ego systems are fragile, boy. Because if you're living in God's love, if you're living in comprehensive love, you're okay to admit you're wrong. Oh, shoot, I was wrong. Sorry. Next. Move on. It's a normal part of life. But when you have this fragile ego system to sustain, because it's where your sense of identity and worth and value and everything comes from, then you have to like constantly fight that stuff off. You're like, oh, I wasn't wrong. I'm not wrong. I can't be wrong. You don't practice humility, intentional humility. You don't practice objectivity. You don't practice metacognition. None of it. Because it's all about maintaining the fragile ego system. So, thank you and have a nice day.